Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a first look at an upcoming Tier 8 premium Russian heavy tank called the KV-4 Turchaninov. I cannot say it, sorry Russian speakers out there, I butchered that. But this tank is going to look familiar, sound familiar, and be familiar because it almost looks as if they've given a KV-1 the KV-4's statistics. So let's have a look at what that actually means. So as you can see here, it resembles a KV-1 in my opinion. The turret looks identical, the gun looks identical, the hull looks identical, but it's called the KV-4 Turchaninov. We'll call it that. I think that's better. But let's have a look at its statistics. So 300 alpha is going to be pretty nice. That is identical to the KV-4, the tech tree version, which I will do a direct comparison to in a second. Penetration-wise, 225 standard AP, 255 gold is okay. Definitely not great for a Tier 8 premium heavy. There are better ones out there, and this will kind of sit mid to low end of average in terms of penetration. Shell velocity, kind of meaningless, but it has pretty standard 1043 AP, 1190 APCR. An 8.1 second reload time, giving this tank a DPM of 2220, which is, once again, okay, but it's not great. It's not on the higher end, but neither is it the lowest, so it's going to kind of sit smack bang average. Gun handling, 2.3 seconds aim time is smack bang average. 0.39 dispersion is pretty poor. Definitely not going to be hitting much at range with this tank. This tank is very much looking suited to play a very identical gameplay role. If any of you have played the tech tree version of the KV-4, up close and personal, as up close and personal as you can get, and that dispersion definitely suggests that. 6 degrees of gun depression, pretty standard for Russian heavies. Speed-wise, slow as hell. 30 forwards, 12 in reverse. Yeah, you're not going anywhere quickly with this tank. Definitely going to be wanting to run a turbo on this tank, for sure. It has pretty poor ground resistances as well, which is something to note. So this tank will struggle over softer terrain. It will struggle to maintain its speed going up a hill, so do bear that in mind as well. Once again, another reason to run a turbo. Hit points wise, 1650 is not great, kind of average for heavy tanks at tier 8, but you know, 1650 compared to 1700, which I believe is a standard for the normal KV-4, kind of meaningless. Armor wise, which we'll have a look at in a second, because it is identical to the tech tree KV-4, just on a different armor model. So we'll have a look at the normal KV-4 and see if we can get an idea of what this tank's armor model is actually going to look like. But on paper, 220 frontally for the turret is pretty okay. Effectively, that might be more. It does look like it's going to be slightly angled, so weaker directly in the middle, close to the gun, stronger further out. 180 hull is looking okay, but if you look in this photo here, it's got a giant flat plate, which is likely going to be very weak. It's likely this driver's hatch, this gunner's port, and what looks like some kind of like a camera view range port thing is going to be maybe even weaker than this kind of flatter area. But this lower plate area we're yet to see as well. But armor wise, not looking incredible. But let's give it a direct comparison to the normal tech tree KV-4 now. So DPM, identical. It has 3 less DPM. That is nothing. You're sensing a trend here, I imagine. Rather a comical one. Alpha, however, is different. 300 compared to 320. So the KV-4 Turchaninov does reload quicker, which gives it the equivalent DPM just for less alpha. Dispersion, worse. The KV-4 tech tree version has 0.35. The new KV-4 Premium, 0.39. 2.3 seconds aim time for the new one compared to 2.21 for the tech tree one. Once again, worse. Mobility, identical apart from the reverse speed. The Premium one gains 1 extra reverse speed. Peculiar. Gun depression, identical, 6 degrees. HP, Once again, it's losing 50 HP, so 1650 for the new premium compared to the KV-4 Tech Tree 1700. View range identical, 350mm. And interestingly, the penetration values are different. The standard is not much different, 225mm AP for the premium and 227 AP for the Tech Tree. However, the gold penetrations are significantly different, with the new premium having significantly worse APCR, with 255mm compared to the old Tech Tree, 289mm APCR, which is pretty comfy for the KV-4. It's one of its decent points, as you kind of do have to fire a lot of gold in it. However, it's looking like the premium one is not going to have that capability, interestingly. However, here is the KV-4, the Tech Tree version. We can kind of have a look at this tank's armor. So as you can see, the weak points for the old, remember this is the Tech Tree one, not the premium. We're just going to use it to have a decent idea. So you can see the weaker points closer to the gun, which probably is going to be pretty similar. As you can see, this flat bar, so as we look at it in the visual, you see this flat bar once again with that visual port, that gunner's port, which is also going to be on the new premium, even though it has a different armor model. Its penetration values are identical. Likely going to be a pretty weak point. Lower plate, once again, weak point with this kind of upper plate, which is visible also on the new premium, going to be stronger. However, the difference between the old KV-4, the Tech Tree one, and the new premium KV-4 Turchaninov is cupola. The old KV-4 has a massive cupola, which is not the weakest, but it is weak, especially to tier 8 premium, tier 9 gold, standard, tier 10s for sure. However, the new one, as we go back to the image, as you can see, no cupola, but other than that, the kind of hull is looking very similar, just with a slightly different layout in this kind of midriff area. But the turret, once again, probably going to be weaker around here and stronger around these areas, but we're yet to see. So, what do I think about this tank? Well, to me, it just looks like a worse KV-4. It's a very, very peculiar addition to the game files. Remember, is currently in Supertest, so we may never see it. But I have a slight inkling and a slight thought that potentially this is going to be a free tank. One that we may be given as part of doing some kind of missions. Potentially, this could be a reward tank for the upcoming Waffenträger mode that we normally get around Christmas time. Or, sorry, not the Waffenträger mode, the Mirny 13 mode, which we are likely to see a return of this year. Remember last year we got the Obsidian as a reward tank. I have a slight inkling of a feeling this may be the reward tank for that. Its statistics look very average, which would match a tank that they're going to be giving away for free to the majority of players, which obviously a lot of players got the Obsidian because it wasn't particularly hard to get. So I feel like this tank would match that kind of criteria. It's almost a copy, but also different of a Tech Tree tank that already exists. And it has a funky name. I don't really know what Turchaninov means, but I would not be shocked if we do not see... I would be shocked if we do not see this as a free tank. And if we don't see it as a free tank, I wouldn't be shocked if we don't ever see it. Just be one of those tanks that sits eternally in the game files, because it's definitely not looking good. It's very average, but once again, because it's so average and is not looking good, it would fit the criteria for a free tank, a free tier 8 premium that everyone can get and probably no one ever play. So, that's my thoughts on this tank. Do let me know yours down in the comments below. Do you think this tank is going to be a free tank? Let's have a little bit of a chat about that. And if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye!